Morning to everybody. And we're ready to resume with the trial. The record will reflect that both defendants are in court with all attorneys present as well, as prosecution is also present. Witnesses on the witness stand. Would you state your name again for the record, please?
Erik Menendez.
I'll remind you that you're still under oath. You may continue your cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Menendez, yesterday we were talking about the Billionaire Boys Club movie. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And did you in fact tell Dr. Ozio that you had seen a BBC movie?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
No, I did not.
But you are familiar with the Billionaire Boys Club?
Yes.
And you indicated yesterday that you're familiar with what you called a mini-series.
No, I know there was a miniseries about the actual case. I'm familiar with the case.
How did you know that there was in fact a mini-series on the Billionaire Boys Club?
Because Brian Eslamania, my friend, I think I even knew about it before him, though. I don't know, it was a big thing when it came out. It was a big television movie.
Now, Brian Islamania is the son of the father who was killed, correct?
Yes.
Now, calling your attention to a conversation that you had on November 29th, 1989, did you refer to forming a group like the BBC?
No, I didn't refer to it like that.
Did you refer to forming a group of 4 people, as you put it? The person you were talking to, a person named Brian, John, and Dave.
I'm going to object to this calling for hearsay.
Objection sustained. This will be evidence offered at a later time.
With regard to the session that you had with Dr. Ozio on October 31st, did you tell Dr. Ozio, after talking about this movie on the BBC, did you tell him that there was no way to link you and your brother to the crime?
No, I did not. I said just the opposite.
You said what?
I told him about the guns down in San Diego. We had a long conversation about that.
And you told him that you could be easily linked to the crime because someone would know that you used Donovan Gaudreau's license in San Diego. Is that what you told him?
No, that's not exactly what I told him.
What did you say?
I told him about the gun purchase in San Diego and how Donovan had called the police the next day and how Detective Zoller told me about, I told Lyle about Donovan on the 17th, I'm quite sure, and how it was purchased with Donovan's license. And I also told him about the video cameras. And I was asking him how long tapes stay on video cameras and so on.
And did you, in fact, call down to the Big Five in San Diego to find out about that?
No, I did not.
Now, so is your belief, right after the killings, that you would be caught?
Oh, I definitely believe that.
So you never told Dr. Ozio that there was no way to link you to the crime since the fingerprints in the house were your fingerprints, since you lived there, and there were no witnesses. Did you ever tell him either of those?
I told him that I didn't think there was any other way to link me other than the guns.
And did you in fact tell him that the guns had not been recovered because you hid them down a hillside off of Mulholland Drive?
Yes.
So you told him that the guns had not been recovered, correct?
Yes.
And you told him that you believed there was no way to tie you and your brother into buying the weapons in the San Diego gun store, correct?
No, I told him just the opposite. There was an easy way, and that's what we discussed. And that's what I was concerned about.
The police, are you saying to these juries that the police would run everyone that you or your brother ever knew in your life to determine if they had bought the shotguns?
No, what I discussed with Dr. Ozil is that I figured that chain stores or something to do with gun records were held on computers, and that all the police would have to do is, and I knew at the time they suspected us highly, that all they'd have to do is run names in the computers and find out when guns were purchased on what days. I was concerned about that.
But they didn't know at that time that you had used fake ID, did they?
Objection. asking?
Rephrase the question, please.
Is it your state of mind that the police knew that you used fake ID in San Diego to purchase these shotguns, sir?
No, I really didn't think that because I bought them in San Diego, it really mattered. I thought there was a statewide computer. Actually, I thought there was a national computer. But once I found out they knew about Donovan, that's when I got concerned, because I thought all they'd have to do was punch in the name in the computer.
You have a knowledge about computers, it appears, sir. Is that right?
Actually, I was wrong. They don't have a statewide computer.
But that was your state of mind before this occurred. That went to your state of mind when you spoke to Dr. Oziel, correct?
Yes.
So you thought about computers, and you thought about a statewide computer, and you thought that they could punch in certain information into the computer?
Certainly.
So when you testified that you didn't know anything about computers, was that inaccurate?
No, I really don't know anything about computers.
Had you ever had any interest in computers?
My dad brought home a computer when I was like 13 or 14, and I had an interest in it then, because you could play the video games on it.
So you had worked on computers before?
No, not really. I hadn't done any assignments on them. I just fiddled around with it, though.
You turned the computer on and you accessed information?
Yes.
You knew something about computers?
No, not really. I didn't know much. I didn't know the computer that he brought home was one of those old-style computers, not like the computers nowadays that are apparently real easy to access. It's real complicated, and I screwed up on it.
So when Dr. Oziel testified that you had told him that there was no way to link you to the guns that you and your brother purchased in the San Diego gun store, he made that up? Because you actually told him that they're going to find out because they know that I used fake ID in San Diego.
No, I didn't tell him that. But we had a discussion about Donovan and the video cameras.
You actually mentioned this person's name and the video cameras to Dr. Oziel?
Yes, we had a long discussion about it.
And you told him that you would get caught because they would run something on a computer?
No, I told him that that was the only way I thought we might get caught at that point.
So you told him that was the only flaw to your plan?
No. I told him that that was the only evidence the police would probably have at that point, since no witnesses have come forward and no one linked us in any way, and so that was the only way I thought at that point they could find us.
Now, you just used some interesting language. You just used the language that Dr. Oziel said you had used, that no one could link you in any way.
Objection sustained. Why don't you rephrase the question, please?
You had just stated, sir, that you believe no one can link you in any way other than that, correct?
Yes.
And that's what Dr. Oziel testified that you said, didn't he?
Objection argumentative.
Overruled.
That's what I just said, and that's the conversation we had with Dr. Oziel about how we could be linked to this, and that's when we talked about, actually, we talked about what the police knew, and that's when we talked about the guns.
Now, you told Dr. Oziel at that time that the police had not recovered the guns because you hid the guns, correct?
Yes.
And that you did inform Dr. Oziel that you bought the guns in San Diego using false identification, correct?
Not in that language, but yes.
At that point, did Dr. Oziel indicate to you that he wanted to have your brother come in on session?
Yes.
That's after you had told him what led up to the murders, what you did in breaking in or bursting into the room, shooting your parents, and what you did afterwards with respect to the evidence?
No.
Objection compound.
Overruled.
No.
What did you tell Dr. Oziel before Dr. Oziel said, let's call Lyle and tell him to come into the session?
I talked.
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
At some point, were you present when Dr. Oziel called your brother
Yes, I was.
and asked him to come into the office,
Yeah, he called him on his phone.
and your brother came in?
Yes.
Now, you said that it took your brother a while to get to the office, correct?
Yeah, longer than I thought it would.
And during that period of time, there was more discussion about what had happened?
It was more discussion about what my parents were like.
When your brother arrived at the office, he wanted to find out what you had told Dr. Oziel, correct?
No, just the opposite.
He did not want to know anything.
All right, this has been asked and asked and asked.
Overruled.
Dr. Oziel wanted to tell him, and Lyle said, "No, I don't want to know. I don't want to hear about it."
At some point, he learned that you had told Dr. Oziel what you and your brother had done, correct?
Yeah, he wanted to hear it from me. I did not want to discuss it with Dr. Oziel.
He found out at some point, sir, that you had implicated him in the killings of your parents.
Yes. I
And
think he suspected it as soon as he went into the session, though.
something was told to him in your presence in that regard. Is that right?
Dr. Oziel said, I think on the phone, Eric's told me what happened or something like that.
So he knew coming in what Dr. Oziel meant.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Was it your state of mind that your brother already knew by the time he arrived at the office?
Objection, Your Honor, irrelevant and based on speculation.
Overruled.
No, I thought that from what I heard on Dr. Oziel's end, that Lyle was probably pretty nervous about it, and I was right.
And when he came in, did he appear to be nervous?
Yes.
And did he immediately become menacing?
No, not immediately.
Okay, how long did it take?
He got angry. I don't use the word menacing. I'm not quite sure the exact definition, but he just got angry and defensive with Dr. Oziel. And was saying that he didn't want to be there. He didn't want to know what I had told him, and he just wanted to talk to me.
Did he get into a fight with you and yell at you for telling Dr. Oziel what you and he had done?
In front of Dr. Oziel?
Yes.
I don't know. He raised his voice once or twice. I know that.
Directed at you?
Yeah, basically saying that, why I couldn't tell him and why I had to go to Dr. Oziel.
Now, at that point, had you told your brother that you had told anyone else about you and he killing your parents?
No, I hadn't.
So this was the first time that your brother was aware that you had exposed the two of you as killers?
Yes.
And you had discussed earlier that it would be less of a risk if the two of you actually committed the killings yourselves, correct?
No.
You had discussed, you had not discussed that at all?
Objection, I asked and answered yesterday.
Overruled.
I don't understand what you're saying. You discussed that it would be less of a risk if Lyle and I did it ourselves?
Yes, that no one else would know, just the two of you, and you would not have to rely on anybody else.
No, that was never discussed.
Now, it was your brother's belief, though, at that point, that only you and he knew that you and he had killed your parents.
Objection, calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Yes, I believe that was his belief.
And now he understood that Dr. Oziel knew what the two of you had done.
Yes.
And he was angry.
Yes.
He was angry that you had told Dr. Oziel what you had done,
Yes.
and he was angry with Dr. Oziel.
Yes.
Did your brother state at that time that it wasn't a perfect murder anymore, that you caused him a very big problem, and that the doctor now knew what you and he had done?
No.
He never made any comment like that.
Definitely never made any comment
In
like
fact-
that. My brother doesn't talk like that.
Maybe you can share with these juries how your brother reacted.
He reacted in saying, I don't want to be here. I don't want to know what you know. I just want to talk to my brother. Dr. Oziel said, well, we can talk about it. And Lyle said, I don't want to be here. And he just wanted to get out of there.
Okay. You have testified that your brother was angry, that he was yelling at you, he was angry with Dr. Oziel. Did he make any statements regarding his displeasure with you about telling Dr. Oziel? And how
Yes,
it co-
I think he may have used the word he felt betrayed or something to that extent. He felt like I should have told him instead of Dr. Oziel if I was having...
When he said that he felt betrayed, did he point out to you that now it's not the perfect murder, now somebody else knows? Now it's not just you and I. It's now Dr. Oziel as well.
No.
Did your brother in your presence tell Dr. Oziel that he didn't want anyone looking over his shoulder and controlling him, and that's why he murdered his parents to begin with?
No.
Did your brother in your presence tell Dr. Oziel that he was very unhappy, that he'd have to think about what he was going to do with this situation, about Dr. Oziel knowing what you and your brother had done?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember.
Could he have said something like that?
Objection calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Could you read it again?
Yes. Did your brother in your presence state that he didn't want anyone looking over his shoulder and controlling him, and that's why he murdered his parents to begin with? And this made him very unhappy that someone else knew about it.
Objection compounded.
Overruled.
No.
More of that.
That wasn't...
Not reread the same question to me.
That's true, he did not.
In,
Your next
in-
question, please.
In summary, do you remember him making any statements regarding your father controlling him, and that's why he murdered him?
Asked and answered.
Overruled.
No, Lyle was certainly not talking to Dr. Oziel about reasons why he didn't even want to. He didn't even admit to Dr. Oziel that he killed our parents. He said he didn't want to talk about it and he didn't want to be there.
Was it clear from your brother's reaction, getting mad at you for telling Dr. Oziel, that he in fact was involved in the killing of your parents?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Did he in fact express his anger in Dr. Oziel's presence with you for having told what you and he had done?
Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Did Dr. Oziel in your presence state that he felt that your brother was menacing?
He may have. I don't remember.
There's some things you don't remember that you told to Dr. Oziel that day, I take it.
I'm sure there's a lot of things I don't remember. I just remember what I remember.
Okay. So some of these things that, for example, the BBC movie, you may have said.
Well, there's certain things I know I wouldn't have said, but I can't say that I definitely didn't because I don't remember, but I'm sure that I would not have said it.
At some point, did you get the feeling that your brother wanted to get rid of Dr. Oziel?
Did he say that to me?
No, at some point, did you feel that your brother wanted to get rid of Dr. Oziel?
Objection.
Overruled.
No.
At some point, did you run out of the office?
Yes.
Why?
Because of two reasons. One, Lyle's reaction, and I couldn't stand it anymore. I was now feeling even more guilty. I was now feeling guilty about the fact that I thought I had displeased my brother and betrayed him, and I now thought the whole world was a mess and things were just getting worse by the second. I just ran out. I couldn't take it anymore.
So you had discussed with Dr. Oziel what you and he had done with respect to killing your parents, and when he came in and he was angry with you, you realized that, as I think you testified, you had screwed up, correct?
I'm sorry. You said too many things in there.
Okay. After telling you told Dr. Oziel what you and your brother had done with respect to killing your parents, correct?
I told him that we had killed our parents.
And you gave him details of that, correct?
Your
As
Honor,
you've
asked and
indicated.
answered.
Sustained.
You also have testified that your brother came in and was angry with you for having disclosed what you and he had done to your parents.
Objection.
Correct?
Cumulative.
He didn't know. He didn't know exactly what I disclosed to Dr. Oziel. No one told him.
He knew that you had implicated him in the murders.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Sustained. Sustained.
What is it that you knew at that point?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this. We can hold it.
Objection sustained. It's already been asked. Mr. Curiano, go on something else, please.
At some point, you left the room.
Yes, I did.
And you left the room because your brother was angry at you.
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled.
I left the room for a multitude of reasons, just all sorts of guilty feelings, so I just ran out.
Was one of those guilty feelings the fact that now your brother knew that you had disclosed what you and he had done?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Overruled.
Yes.
And where did you go after that?
I ran downstairs to the car.
And was your new Jeep sitting down at the street?
Yes, it was.
And did your brother come down shortly thereafter?
Yes, he did.
And did you have a conversation with your brother at the Jeep?
With Dr. Zeal and Lyle. They both came down together. And yes, we did at that point.
And at that point, did you tell Dr. Oziel that you would be back, or did you call him the next day?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
At that point, at your Jeep, did you discuss with Dr. Oziel another session, or did you call him later?
No, we discussed coming back. I don't remember if we made the exact time, but we discussed coming back on the Thursday.
Now, you have testified in direct examination that you felt that you better go back because Dr. Oziel might go to the police.
That's what Lyle and I discussed later.
So was it sometime later that you made the decision to go back to talk to Dr. Oziel more?
No, we had made the plans with Dr. Zeal. We discussed later whether or not we were going to cancel them or whether or not we were going to keep those plans.
And you decided it was a good idea to keep the plans because he now had information that he could turn over to the police, you thought?
Well, he definitely had information that he could turn over to the police.
And you didn't want that to happen?
No.
Now, on November 2nd, you and your brother both went in to see Dr. Oziel, is that correct?
Yes, we did.
And on that day, was there a discussion about why you had killed your parents?
No, there wasn't.
At any time during that entire session on November 2nd, did you and your brother ever touch upon, ever discuss the killing of your parents?
Yeah, Dr. Zeal kept bringing it up. And he would either, I don't think he directly came out and asked why, but he certainly was telling us the reasons. I mean, part of the session was based on that point, him telling us what we knew of the family, and we discussing what we knew of the family, and then him telling us how that fit into why. But the basic, I would say, premise of the conversation was Dr. Oziel telling me that I didn't know why.
Mr. Menendez, are you telling these jurors that you and your brother went into that session and you simply sat back passively and said, why don't you guess why we did this?
No, actually Lyle told him up front that he did not want to discuss why, and that's not why he was there. And so we all decided that we would talk about what he called I think he called it the constellation of our family and how it was put together and what the elements were in it.
Early on in the conversation, did Dr. Oziel inform you and your brother that he had taped the session and that he had instructed his attorney that upon his demise that the attorney would go to the police and that this tape was in a safety deposit box?
That's if I remember correctly, that's the first thing he said, which put us back a little. And that's the first thing he said, that he had these tapes in safety deposit boxes.
And did he inform you at that time, you and your brother, that that was for his protection?
Yes.
That he felt threatened by you?
Yes.
At that point, isn't it true that your brother proceeded to laugh and he told Dr. Oziel that he should have felt threatened because after the session, he and you had sat in your Jeep and the first statement that he made to you was, well, now how do we kill Oziel?
Definitely not.
Your brother was angry that day, was he? Was he not? On
Which day are you talking about?
October 31st, 1989. He was angry that day, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
And he was angry because somebody else knew what you and he had done.
That's part of it, but he was more angry at the break of loyalty. And I'm not sure if it was just pure anger. I think he was quite hurt.
He was angry at you for disclosing and also angry that there was someone else that knew. Would that be fair to say?
That would be fair to say that was part of what was happening. I think that another large part was that he felt a serious break in loyalty, that I would go to someone else, and he felt hurt about that. He liked how close our relationship was.
So there are two reasons.
Two reasons that I knew about.
Okay. One being that he was angry that there was a third party that knew.
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Did he explain to Dr. Oziel that you and he had discussed killing Dr. Oziel?
Did he explain that?
Yes.
No.
After Dr. Oziel had explained to you and your brother that he had this tape in a safety deposit box, this insurance policy, was it
Form a question, Your Honor.
Sustained.
after Dr. Oziel told you and your brother that he had this tape, that he had it in a safety deposit box, did your brother joke with him about then having to protect Dr. Oziel so that nothing would happen to him and the tapes being released?
I recognize that. I don't know where it was brought up. I don't have a recollection of it being brought up right after that. But I recognize that statement.
Did your brother tell Dr. Oziel that he had decided that it wouldn't look too good if Dr. Oziel disappeared too soon because it would have been too close to when your parents had been killed?
No, you're missing the whole point of what I'm saying. Dr. Oziel was telling us that he felt threatened, and because of it, he could go to the police right then if he wanted to. And we were trying to tell him no reason to feel threatened. Nothing's gonna happen, and Lyle wouldn't have said something like that.
When you were joking around, after he had told you about this tape, that's when the joking occurred about, well, it wouldn't look too good if you disappeared too soon. Isn't that correct?
After he had told us about the tape, we were certainly not in a joking mood.
Mr. Menendez, you said that from the very beginning you thought that you were going to get caught. Isn't that right?
Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Mr. Menendez, do you recall stating on November 29th, 1989, that I've known from the beginning, no clues, no one heard anything?
Object, Counselor Hairston.
Sustained.
This is a statement that you made, sir.
Your Honor, I'm going to
Same
object.
objection.
All right, sustained at this time. Go on to something else, please.
Very well. Mr. Menendez, were you present when Dr. Oziel had the conversation with your brother, and wherein Dr. Oziel said, "I don't want to live in fear"?
Objection, Your Honor. Vegas to time and place.
Overruled.
No, I don't remember that.
On November 2nd, 1989, in that session that you had with your brother, with Dr. Oziel?
Dr. Oziel said he didn't want to live in fear?
Yes.
I don't remember it.
Dr. Oziel had expressed that he was afraid, correct?
He said that he was afraid on the 31st. I guess he still said that he was afraid, yeah.
And that when Dr. Oziel said, "I don't want to live in fear," your brother said, "Neither did my father." Remember that?
No.
At that point, was there a discussion about why you had wanted to kill your father?
At some point in the conversation, my father's personality was deeply discussed.
And you expressed those things that you didn't like about your father? Would that be fair to say?
No, that wouldn't be fair to say.
You're telling what a good guy your father was.
No, I was telling Dr. Oziel at the same time that I wanted to write a book about all the great things that my father had been. And I was also telling him some of the other things. He was telling me some of the things. It was sort of like a group conversation about what he knew about my dad and about how we wanted to write a book and some of the things that we knew about our dad.
When he wanted to know from you, why did you kill your mother, what did you tell him?
Objection, since that's not evidence.
Overruled.
I didn't tell him. I remember specifically that Lyle said that he was not going to discuss that.
Are you saying that when Dr. Oziel asked about why you killed your mother, your brother said, "No, we're not going to discuss motivation here"?
I believe Dr. Oziel testified to that.
I believe Dr. Oziel testified that you and your brother had discussed why you killed your mother.
Objection, Your Honor.
Isn't that correct?
Argumentative.
Objection sustained. Rephrase the question.
Yes, Your Honor. Isn't it true that Dr. Oziel testified here as to what you and your brother told him with regard to why you killed your mother as well?
Yes, he said some things along that line as well.
And he said he had testified that the plot began with the viewing of this BBC special, correct?
Object to what Dr. Oziel testified to, Your Honor. That's irrelevant.
Overruled.
Yes, Dr. Oziel testified to that here.
And that the father in that BBC special mirrored what you and your brother wanted to do to your father. Isn't that correct?
That mistakes the testimony.
Overruled.
Yeah, he said something along those lines as well.
Now, you have indicated that you were a friend of Brian Islamania,
Yes.
and in this movie,
All right, let's go on to something else.
this is reserved for
Let's just
later.
go on to something else.
You had indicated that your mother was depressed and suicidal, is that correct?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
talked about.
You expressed that she would potentially be a witness against you.
No. I'm not sure what context you're talking about.
Well, if you had killed your father and your mother would have lived, would she have been a witness against you?
Your Honor, I object that that's confusing. Is he talking about what was said at Dr. Oziel?
Why don't you rephrase the question,
Okay.
please?
Is your was your state of mind at the time,
Which
that at the time of the killings, that if your mother had lived, she could have been a witness against you?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Overruled.
No, I doubt she would have been a witness against us at any point. I think that she might very well have killed us and killed herself, just poisoned everyone, but I doubt very much that she would come to court and testify against us. That wouldn't have happened.
That's your state of mind.
That's more than my state of mind. That's my absolute belief.
You wanted to kill your mother just as badly as you wanted to kill your father?
I hadn't thought about the difference. I only thought that they were going to kill us, and at that last moment, to kill them.
Did you ever tell Dr. Oziel that as it got closer to the time when you would kill your parents, that there were second thoughts about killing your mother?
No, we didn't discuss it. We didn't discuss that. Let me try to remember exactly. I know we didn't discuss that. I don't remember certain things.
Do you remember telling Dr. Oziel that once you had made the plan and had formed it with your
We're not
brother?
going to object to this master approach.
All right.
Mr. Menendez, with respect to the October 31st, 1989 session, did you tell Dr. Oziel that you remembered that your mother locked the doors to the bedroom? I'll rephrase that, Your Honor. On the November 2nd, 1989 session, or in that session, did you tell Dr. Oziel that your mother had locked the doors to the bedroom and that your mother and father had sensed that that you were capable of murdering them?
No. I said something like that, but I didn't say that.
Now, on that same November 2nd session, in the context of talking about how impossible your father was, did you tell Dr. Oziel that your father had nearly disinherited you?
No.
And that was another example of why you had to kill your father?
No, I wouldn't have used the word disinherit since he didn't nearly disinherited me. He did. But we did talk about what my dad was like and the things that he would do over my lifetime.
In fact, sir, he did not disinherit you, did he?
Apparently not.
In fact, the will that was found gave his estate to you and your brother.
Yes.
Had he discussed disinheritance with you before?
Dr. Oziel or
No,
my
your father.
We didn't discuss it. He told me. My dad rarely discussed things with me.
Did he ever say, if you don't shape up, I'm going to disinherit you?
No, he didn't use disinheriting me as a threat hanging over my head. I either was or I wasn't.
It was, I believe you stated September of 1988 that your father had the discussion about disinheriting you?
Yes, he told me I was out of the will.
Now, with regard to the will, you had discussed that your father had brought a computer home when you were about 14 or 15 years old?
I really don't remember the date. I was 13, 14, not 15. It may have been.
Do you remember?
Your Honor, I would object to this occurring at this point in the examination, because the direct is not clear before both jurors.
Well, I don't know exactly where he's going yet, so objection overruled as to that question.
With respect to this will and your knowledge, strike that. With respect to the computer that your father brought home and your knowledge about computers, do you know if the computer your father brought home was an IBM or an Apple? Do you know what type of computer it was?
I don't remember. I know it was a big, bulky, big thing that even had a telephone thing attached to it, which is what I like to play with.
And in fact, you actually operated this computer.
I actually, by accident, erased the hard disk and was banned from using the computer at that point. But I used to like to play the video games on it.
Did your parents give you lessons on how to operate a computer after that, so you wouldn't do that again?
No. Before that, they had a big manual, a DOS manual, and a basic manual. It was these boxes of manuals how to use this computer, but I never read those, which is why I made that mistake.
Never opened one of those up?
I don't remember opening. I was so young, I didn't want to read all this material. I just wanted to play around with it.
And you say there was a phone on this computer?
Yeah, it was a. You could call people through this computer. I remember that, and I was always trying to access those things, and I could never figure it out.
Was there more than one computer at the Beverly Hills mansion when your parents were killed?
Yes, I believe there were two.
One was upstairs in the bedroom?
One was my mother's, and one was, I think it was in the study.
And whose was that?
It was a computer that was used for homework assignments and things like that.
By whom?
By my mother, and by, I guess, I used it once to type up a paper once I learned how to type in school.
Did you ever see your brother operate that computer?
No, I didn't. He wasn't a computer person.
Now, you're talking about this phone on the computer. Was that computer then wasn't at your house when you killed your parents? The one that you were talking about that your father brought home in your early teens?
I really, I don't know. I don't remember.
Did you ever see a computer in your brother's guest house?
No.
Now, you had indicated that there was a phone in your brother's guest house, correct?
Yes.
Was that a stationary phone, or was it one of those mobile-type phones that you could pick up and take with you if you had to go to the bathroom or something like that?
You mean, was it a portable?
Yes.
Or did it have a long cord?
Right.
I don't know. I don't know.
Do you remember ever using the phone in the guest house?
No, I don't.
You have testified that you believed that you were a suspect in September of 1989, correct?
Yes.
And that you went to talk to Dr. Oziel on October 31st?
Yes.
About a week before you went to talk to Dr. Oziel, that is on October 24th, did you have a conversation with Detective Zoller?
Yeah, at my house.
And did Detective Zoller indicate to you that there was going to be an LA Times article about the participation, perhaps, of your brother in the killings?
Yes.
Did that concern you?
Certainly.
And did you take steps in that regard?
I remember trying to locate my brother. I don't remember if I ever did.
So this occurred about a week before you actually went to see Dr. Oziel?
I don't remember it recurring a week before, but if it was on the 24th and I went to see Oziel on the 31st, then it would be a week.
Did that have an effect on you, your state of mind?
In terms of me thinking that the police had me as a suspect,
Right.
I had known that since September.
But did that heighten your concern about that?
No, actually it didn't. It was surprising to me that if the police suspected me, they were telling me that someone else suspected me. It was a little confusing, but I still suspected that the police thought I was involved.
Now, you had had a relationship with Dr. Oziel prior to seeing him on October 31st and November 2nd?
Objection.
Overruled.
Is that
Yes.
correct? And, in fact, you had an appointment with him on August 18th, 1989, correct?
Yes, I did.
And that was the day that you and your brother went down to San Diego to buy the shotguns?
Yeah, I had canceled that appointment earlier in the week.
Okay.
I had made it and then canceled it.
When is it your recollection that you canceled that?
I know it was after I spoke to my brother because I had made it before I spoke to my brother.
What day would that have been on?
I made it after the conversation with my father on Sunday when he told me that I was going to be having to sleep at home some days, and I just wanted to die, and so I called Dr. Oziel to make an appointment because I hadn't seen him in a long time. And then after I talked to Lyle and told him everything, there was no need to go to Dr. Oziel, so I canceled it.
Dr. Oziel was a friend of yours at that point, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Did you approach him?
No, not really.
Not really?
No, he was a therapist who... He was a therapist.
And if you were having any problems at that time, you would have gone to see him on August 18th?
Not really. I know that he's...
Well, I'm going to object to the questions in this area.
Overruled.
I know that he spoke with my parents, and so I was... I never really told him much about...
Your Honor, I'd like to be heard, please.
All right, you may.
Thank you.
Mr. Menendez, take you back to the night of the killings. You had testified that you and your brother had gone to the Century 14, and I believe we didn't get beyond that. So after the Century 14 theater, where did you next go?
Up to Mulholland Drive or Mulholland Highway.
Were you directing your brother where to go at this point?
At that point, yes.
You were familiar with the area?
Yes, I was.
Where exactly did you direct your brother to stop that night?
On Mulholland Highway.
Where, though?
Oh, I don't know. Within 1 to 2 miles of cold water. It was dark. He just pulled over at the side of the road.
Was it pitch black outside that you could barely see anything?
I know that it was like late at night. I don't remember what kind of moon was out that night.
It's your recollection that you went about 2 miles and then you told your brother to stop. This looks like a good place to dump the guns.
No, I don't know if I told him. I don't remember telling him where to dump the guns. I remember directing him how to get to Mulholland Drive or Highway, but I don't really remember how far down we went or me telling him where to stop.
Was there some discussion, though, in the car as to your knowledge of the area and where you would end up throwing the shotguns?
Yeah, I kept saying we needed to get rid of the guns, and or something to that extent. And I didn't know where, so I just said, drive up to Mulholland.
Okay, and at some point, I believe after 2 miles, was it, that you said, okay, stop here?
Yes, Your Honor, asked him.
Overruled.
No, I didn't tell him how far down Mulholland, and I don't know exactly how far down we went. But I don't remember telling him where to stop.
Do you remember houses being around where you took the guns down this hill?
No.
Do you remember any lights from any buildings around there?
No, I remember a lot of forest.
When you went down the hill, was it dirt or was it bush or what?
It was dirt, bush, trees, all kinds of things.
And how far did you take the guns down?
It didn't seem that far to me. I don't know, 50 feet? Maybe 75. I don't know. I ran down so quickly and ran back up.
Did you tell Dr. Oziel that you went down about 150 feet?
I didn't tell him how far I went down.
You just told him that you went down a hill.
Yeah.
To your knowledge, your brother never tried to get the guns.
Objection, Your Honor, cause for speculation.
Overruled.
I don't know what Lyle tried to do, but I know we discussed it with Dr. Oziel.
And when you discussed it with Dr. Oziel, was there then an attempt to get the guns?
No.
And after you went down the side of this hill and I believe you said you put some bushes or some branches over the guns?
I don't really remember whatever was around. I just tried it with like 2 sweeps. I didn't cover the guns completely.
And then you ran up the hill,
Yes.
got into your car,
Yes.
and your brother was driving.
Yes.
Was he facing the same direction as when you were going?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
And where'd you go after that?
Well, we wanted to try to get over to Perry and at the Taste of LA. So I was telling him, Lyle was unfamiliar with the area, much less familiar than I was. So I was telling him how to get to Taste of LA.
Was he kind of driving erratically at that point?
He was driving fast, and I was telling him to slow down because I was afraid that we'd get pulled over and arrested, and had all this stuff in the car, and that we were going to get arrested right then.
You had testified on direct that you had to, at one point, tell your brother to get it together.
Yes.
And as you're coming down this hill, did you tell him how to get to the Santa Monica Civic Center?
I mean, when I was coming down Mulholland?
Yes.
Yeah, I was giving him directions.
And you knew how to get to Santa Monica from that point?
Yes.
And was it your understanding that the Santa Monica Civic Center was on, what, 3rd Street, between 3rd and 4th Street in Santa Monica?
There's Lincoln, 3rd, 4th. You can take any of them, I believe.
And on the way to the Santa Monica Civic, did you stop anywhere?
We may very well have stopped at the gas station on the way there. I don't have a specific memory of doing that before, but that very well may have happened.
Where did you tell him? Which route did you tell him to take?
The freeway.
From Mulholland to where?
Mulholland to... It was one of the streets that went to the 405. It was either Santa Monica or Sunset. I don't remember which one.
And then on to the 405.
Yeah, the 405 just cuts into the 10, which brings you right into Santa Monica.
And where was it that you stopped at this gas station, sir?
In Santa Monica.
Was it very close to the Santa Monica Civic?
The Santa Monica Civic, we got lost we took a wrong street somewhere right in Santa Monica getting to the Civic Center, because I wasn't exactly sure on what street that place was, but I know the gas station was real close to it.
Close to where the Taste of LA was?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it was right off the freeway, the gas station.
And was the gas station open?
I think so.
Okay, and did you go to the back of this gas station?
Far to the side. I have a memory of some sort of a car wash there. I could be wrong, but it was far away from the gas station. There was a dumpster.
And at that point, you removed your pants?
Yes.
And did you see your brother remove anything?
I have a specific memory of his shoes. I don't remember if he took anything else off.
At that point, did he ask you, do you have some shoes I could wear? I got blood on mine.
I don't remember. I lived halfway in my car, so if he did, I would have given him some.
And you had plenty of clothes to put on that day?
Yes.
And you pulled out another pair of pants?
Yes.
Put those on?
Yes.
And then you went to the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium?
Yes.
And you went inside of the building?
No, I didn't go in at first. It wasn't a building. It was a fenced area of... I'm not even quite sure what exactly it was, but it was called the Taste of LA. I went in after Lyle didn't come out for a while. Lyle didn't want me to go in.
Was there a reason for that?
Yeah, my demeanor wasn't doing so well. He wanted me to just stay in the car and relax there when he went to go find Perry.
And he went around and looked for Perry on the grounds?
I assume. I don't know. I wasn't with him.
Were you with him when he made a phone call to Perry?
No, I wasn't.
Did your brother tell you that he told Perry that you and he were there since 10:15, and he told Perry that?
I don't know what he told Perry. The one thing I remember is him saying that we were supposed to meet Perry at the Cheesecake Factory.
And did he tell you what the purpose of that was?
Yeah, he wanted to be with someone that night. I assume to try to further an alibi, we hadn't met anyone that night, so I assume that was the reason.
Mr. Menendez, you say that you had been molested for 12 years, correct? That's your testimony?
Yes, that's what happened.
All the way up to when you were nearly 19 years old?
Up until my father died.
Now, are there any witnesses to this molestation?
Objection, all cause for speculation.
Overall.
Was anyone in the room?
Yes.
No.
In fact, the only person that could deny or contest your claim is your father, correct?
Objection, all cause for speculation.
Overall.
My father and my mother.
And both of them are dead, correct?
Yes.
At this point, Your Honor, with respect to that
All right, let
one
me
issue.
see counsel then at the sidebar regarding the schedule here.